The term 10 out of 10 gets thrown around a lot, right? But what does it really mean for a JRPG? For me, it's a game that respects your time, even when it's asking for a lot of it. We're talking about those massive, sprawling adventures, the ones that become a part of your life for a few weeks, maybe even a few months, whereby sinking over 100 hours into the game becomes a real commitment. And if you're gonna do that, you wanna be damn sure the game is practically perfect. And that's the main purpose of this video. As always, I'm Daniel, and today of 15 perfect 10 out of 10 JRPGs you can spend 100 plus hours in.
Starting off at number 15 is Metaphor ReFantasio. So the setup is this. The king is dead, the heir's been cursed, and the whole kingdom of Uchronia is just falling apart. This triggers an ancient, magical tournament to decide who the next ruler is going to be. And you're basically a nobody. You're from this persecuted tribe, traveling with your little fairy companion Gallica, and you decide, against all odds, that you're gonna go for it and try to win the throne. You travel the land in this massive vehicle called the Gauntlet Runner. It's your home base, your transport, it's kind of everything. This creates this really compelling gameplay loop of heading out to explore a region, tackle some dungeons, and then returning to your base to, cook, talk with your party members, and plan your next move. The combat is this brilliant hybrid system. See, for weaker enemies out in the world, you just run up and attack them in real time. It's fast, it's fluid, and it completely eliminates that feeling of getting bogged down by pointless random battles. But when you run into a real threat, the game seamlessly transitions into that deep, strategic turn-based combat that Atlas has perfected. It's honestly the best of both worlds. And the core of that strategy is the archetype system. Think of them like super flexible job classes. You can equip the knight archetype and then mid-battle switch to a thief or a mage or all these other wild-looking classes. It's all about finding those powerful synergies between your party's archetypes, and it's just incredibly deep. You're not just grinding levels, you're constantly managing your time, deciding which towns to visit, who you're going to spend your evenings with to build up those bonds, which of course gives you more power in combat. Sinking 100 or 150 hours into this doesn't even feel like a chore. It feels like you're just, living in this world. It's a phenomenal game from a team that is, without a doubt, at the absolute top of their game. And I'm talking about the director that brought us Persona 3, 4, and 5. And you can absolutely feel that DNA, but it's wrapped in this incredible high fantasy package.
Okay, up at number 14 is Tales of Vesperia. So you play as Yuri Lowell. He's a former Imperial Knight who's kind of just had it with the system, He sees the corruption and the bureaucracy and decides he's better off helping people his own way. It all starts super small. A magic core called the Blastia gets stolen from his neighborhood's water supply, and Yuri sets out to get it back. But what begins as this simple little quest, it just spirals into this absolutely massive world-spanning adventure involving ancient civilizations, political intrigue, and the very nature of the planet's life force. This is a Tales game, so you know what that means. Action combat. It uses the famous linear motion battle system, but Vesperia's version is just so polished. It's this fast-paced, real-time system that almost feels like a fighting game, honestly. You're zipping around the battlefield, stringing together normal attacks with special moves called artes. It starts simple enough, but the ceiling for skill is incredibly high. You get into stuff like manual canceling to extend your combos, using fatal strikes, which are these cool cinematic finishers. It gets crazy. And Vesperia is just legendary among Tales fans. For a long, long time, many people called it the absolute peak of the series. For years, the best version of the game, with extra playable characters and story content, was stuck on the PlayStation 3, and was only in Japan. Thankfully, we now have the definitive edition on all modern consoles, which packs in all that extra content and more. And that's where the 100 plus hours comes in. The main story alone is a hefty, satisfying journey, but the amount of side content is staggering. There are dozens upon dozens of optional side quests, many of which are easily missable and flesh out the world and characters in amazing ways. There are secret missions within every single boss fight that unlock special rewards, a massive post-game dungeon to explore. Yeah, to do everything this game has to offer, you are going to be camped out on your couch for a very, very long time, and you'll love every minute of it.
Next up at number 13 is Shin Megami Tensei 5. So you start out as a totally normal high school student living your life in modern-day Tokyo. That lasts for about 5 minutes. You end up walking through this creepy tunnel and emerge into a completely different reality. It's Tokyo, but it's been destroyed, buried under a sea of sand, and it's now a battlefield in a war between angels and demons. Before you're immediately killed, you fuse with this mysterious being, an Aogami, and you become this incredibly powerful entity known as a Nahobino. Your goal is pretty simple, really. Find out what happened, survive, and ultimately decide the fate of this new world. This is not your friendly neighborhood JRPG. SMT is the parent series to Persona, and it is way darker and way more demanding. The absolute heart of the game, its entire identity, revolves around demon negotiation. You don't just kill monsters, you talk to them. You have to answer their questions, bribe them, sometimes flatter them, and if you succeed, they'll join your party. But then you take those demons you've collected and you go to the world of shadows and fuse them together to create new, much more powerful demons, carefully passing down the skills you want. It's like this incredibly dark and complex version of Pokemon, and it is one of the most addictive gameplay loops ever created. And that loop feeds directly into the combat. It uses the press-turn system, which is just brutal but brilliant. It's turn-based, right? But if you hit an enemy's elemental weakness or land a critical hit, you get an extra turn. Simple. The catch? The enemy can do the exact same thing to you. This creates this incredible tension where any single fight, even against basic enemies out in the field, can go south fast if you're not paying attention. One mistake, and you can get completely wiped out. And this game is massive. The ruined world of Da'at is split into these enormous open zones that are a blast to explore, full of secrets, collectibles, and terrifyingly high-level demons that will one-shot you if you wander into the wrong area. Now, the original game was a Switch exclusive, but thankfully, now we have Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. It is, without a doubt, the definitive way to play. It adds a whole new second storyline that's just as long as the first, adds tons of new demons, new areas, and some really smart quality of life updates. Trying to complete just one of those story paths and fill out your demon compendium, that's easily over 100 hours. Trying to do everything Vengeance has to offer, you're looking at a serious time investment. At number 12, we've got The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 3. I have to put a huge, massive asterisk on this one. This is not a series you can just jump into. Seriously, Cold Steel 3 is like the 7th or 8th game in a single continuous story that starts all the way back with Trails in the Sky. But if you have put in the time, my God, this game is an incredible reward. You're back as Rian Schwarzer, the hero from the first 2 games, but this time you're not a student, you're an instructor at a new branch campus of the Thor's Military Academy. You're tasked with leading a whole new generation of Class 7, a bunch of misfits and problem children, while this massive continent-spanning political conspiracy is boiling over all around you. You're trying to mentor these kids while also being a national war hero, the Ashen Chevalier, and it's a really interesting dynamic. The combat is this super refined turn-based system that the series is known for. It's all about positioning your characters on the field, delaying your enemies, and using the break system to just completely shatter their defenses, leaving them wide open. Cold Steel 3 introduces Brave Orders, which are these powerful party-wide buffs you can pop at the start of any turn, and they can completely change the tide of a tough fight. But the reason this game will absorb your life? The script is probably longer than the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy. The series is legendary for its world building. Every single NPC, even the random baker in a tiny little village, has unique dialogue that changes after every single story beat. The sheer density of the world is just on a level that almost no other series even attempts to reach. And that's before you get into all the side quests, the bonding events with your students and old friends, the fishing, the card game Vantage Masters. It's just endless. It's a slow burn, but the payoff is one of the richest, most detailed worlds you will ever experience in a video game. It just demands your time, and honestly, it earns it.
At number 11 is Final Fantasy XII, The Zodiac Age. So this one is set in the incredible world of Ivalice. You've got these two massive empires at war, and the tiny little kingdom of Dalmasca is crushed right in the middle of it. You start the game as Vaughn, a street kid living under Imperial occupation who dreams of becoming a sky pirate. But you pretty quickly realize you're just along for the ride. The real story is about Princess Ashe trying to reclaim her lost kingdom, and the actual stars of the show are Balthier and Fran, who are, without question, the coolest duo in Final Fantasy history. Now, FF12's gameplay was a huge departure for the series back in the day. It plays kind of like a single-player MMO. You run around these huge, open zones with your party members, and combat happens right there on the map in real time. But the magic, the absolute genius of this game is the Gambit system. You don't directly control every single character's actions. Instead, you're basically a programmer. You set up a list of conditional commands for your AI teammates. Simple stuff at first, like if an ally's HP is below 50%, cast Cure, but it gets incredibly complex. When you get a perfect set of gambits running and your party just works like a well-oiled machine, destroying enemies without you even needing to touch the controller, it is one of the most satisfying feelings ever. When this first came out on the PS2, it was a little divisive. The original progression system, the license board, was the same for every character, so by the end, everyone kind of felt the same. But the version we have now, the Zodiac Age, fixes everything. It's a complete masterpiece. It introduces a proper job system based on the zodiac signs, where you can give each character 2 jobs, leading to some insane build variety, and, most importantly, it added a fast-forward button. Trust me, in a game this big, that is an absolute godsend. And yeah, it is big. The maze story is a grand political epic that will take you a good 60 hours, but the real time sink? The hunts. You can take on contracts to hunt down dozens of unique, powerful monsters scattered all over the world, including legendary super bosses like Yasmat, which is this marathon battle that can literally take hours to win. Completing the bestiary, finding all the summons, getting the ultimate weapons, it is a completionist's dream. It's a game that respects your intelligence, and it is just endlessly rewarding. So next up at number 10 is Persona 4 Golden. So you're a high schooler from the big city who has to move for a year to live with your uncle and cousin in the kind of sleepy rural town of Inaba. It's a huge change of pace, but things get weird fast. A bizarre string of murders starts, and they seem to be linked to this strange local legend called the Midnight Channel, where if you stare into a blank TV on a rainy night, you can see your soulmate. You and your newfound friends discover you can actually dive into the TV world. Your goal is to rescue people who've been thrown inside before they're killed and solve this bizarre murder mystery. Of course, you're a student. You go to class, you answer questions, you join sports or cultural clubs, you can get part-time jobs, normal high school stuff. The most important thing you do, though, is choose who to spend your time with. Hanging out with your friends and building those relationships, they're called social links, directly powers you up for the other half of the game, the dungeon crawling. Inside the TV world, you fight these monsters called shadows in this super slick turn-based combat system. It's all about exploiting enemy weaknesses to get extra turns and chain together these massive attacks. The stronger your friendships are in the real world, the more powerful the personas you can fuse for the TV world. It's one of the best gameplay loops ever designed.
Golden was the reason to own a PlayStation Vita. It was the killer app for that handheld. It took the amazing PS2 original and just added so much more. A new character, new social links, a whole new playable semester. It's the definitive version, no question. And the tone is everything. Unlike a lot of JRPGs that are all about, doom and gloom, Persona 4 is just relentlessly optimistic and charming. It's a murder mystery, yeah, but it's being solved by this group of friends that you genuinely grow to love. It feels like a found family. You live in Inaba for a full in-game year. Every single day, you have to decide what to do. And you can't do everything. Maxing out every social link, seeing every event, that's easily a 100-hour journey, and you'll probably need a New Game Plus run to see it all. It's one of those games that, when the credits finally roll, you actually feel sad to leave.
Up next at number 9, we have Dragon Quest XI's Echoes of an Elusive Age. So, the premise is about as classic as it gets. You are the Luminary, the reincarnation of a legendary hero who is destined to fight back the encroaching darkness and save the world. Simple, right? Well, when you finally reveal yourself to the king, instead of a parade, he calls you the Darkspawn, the source of all evil, and throws you in the dungeon. So you escape, and the game becomes this massive journey where you're a fugitive, gathering this incredible band of allies, all while trying to clear your name and actually save the world that wants you dead. If you're looking for some revolutionary action-packed combat system, this ain't it. What it is probably the most polished, most perfected, and most it's just satisfying traditional turn-based combat you will ever play. It knows exactly what it is, and it just executes it flawlessly. You've got your skill trees to customize your party, this pep system where characters can get powered up and unleash these awesome team attacks, and the crafting system, the Fun Size Forge, is dangerously addictive. It's like this super satisfying mini-game where you're literally hammering out better gear for your team. You need to play the S version, the definitive edition. The original release on PS4 was great, but it had this kind of MIDI-sounding soundtrack. The S version has a full, glorious orchestral score, and it completely changes the feel of the game. And it has this insane feature where you can play the entire game in a 2D 16-bit style like an old-school SNES Dragon Quest. The main story alone is going to push you towards 80, maybe 90 hours, and it's paced perfectly. But the post-game isn't just an extra dungeon, it is a whole new story act that is essential to the experience and can easily add another 30 to 40 hours on top of that. It is pure, it's charming, it's epic, and it is one of the most content-packed games I have ever played.
At number 8 is Octopath Traveler 2. So the core idea here is that you're not following one hero, you're following 8 of them. The game starts and you pick one. Maybe you're the warrior Hikari, seeking a way to reclaim your kingdom. Or maybe you're the thief Throne, trying to escape a life of crime. Or the scholar Oswald, who is framed for murdering his family and is now bent on revenge. You start their story, and from there, you can just wander the world, recruiting the other 7 heroes in any order you want and experiencing the unique adventures. The combat is built around this brilliant break and boost system. It's turn-based, right? But every enemy has a set of weaknesses, certain weapons, certain elements. Your job is to hit those weaknesses to break them, which stuns them for a turn and makes them take a ton of damage. At the same time, every turn you're banking these boost points, or BP. You can then spend that BP on your turn to boost. You can attack multiple times or unleash a super-powered version of a spell. The entire rhythm of combat is this incredibly satisfying puzzle of setting up the break and then using your boost to just completely annihilate them. Now, if you played the first game, you probably know the one big criticism it got. The stories were great, but they felt almost too separate. The 8 heroes were in your party, but they didn't really interact. And that was a totally valid criticism. Octopath 2 just fixes it. It adds these new crossed paths chapters where 2 of the heroes team up for their own side story. And it all culminates in a massive true final chapter that brings everyone together in a much, much more meaningful way. It is a massive improvement that makes the whole world feel way more cohesive. You have 8 complete stories to play through, and none of them feel like filler. They're all these deeply personal, well-written adventures. Then you add in the crossed paths, a huge world to explore, dozens of side quests, and that massive final chapter. Yeah, it's a huge undertaking. It's a collection of fantastic stories that come together to form one single phenomenal masterpiece. Coming in at number 7, we've got Star Ocean Till the End of Time, or as most people call it, Star Ocean 3. Playing as a normal college student on this super futuristic luxury vacation in space with his parents and his childhood friend, while everything is great until this incredibly powerful, technologically superior alien federation attacks your resort ship. You get separated from everyone, escape in a pod, and end up crash landing on this medieval-level, undeveloped planet. The whole first part of the game is just you trying to survive and find your way off this rock, but it quickly spirals into this galaxy-spanning epic to find your family and figure out why this unstoppable force is trying to wipe out humanity. Now, Star Ocean has always been about action combat, and this one was really ambitious for the PS2 era. It's fully real-time, you're running around a 3D battlefield, stringing together light and heavy attacks. The core of it is this fury gauge, which is kind of like your stamina. You use it to attack, but if it runs out, you're a sitting duck. It creates this really cool rhythm of attacking and then backing off to let it recharge. And then you layer on the cancel bonus, where if you perfectly time canceling one special move into another, your damage just skyrockets. It's a system with a really high skill ceiling. But we have to talk about the plot twist. No spoilers, I promise, but Star Ocean 3 has one of the most insane plot twists in the series. It recontextualizes the entire game you've been playing up to that point. People either love it or they absolutely hate it, but no one forgets it. It's a thing of legend. And this is a huge game. The main story is a massive journey across multiple planets. You have these massive optional super dungeons like the Maze of Tribulations that are just brutally difficult and packed with unique bosses. And then there's the item creation. It is a game within the game. It is this ridiculously deep, almost impenetrably complex system where you can invent new items and weapons. You could easily spend 50 hours just in the item creation menus trying to craft the ultimate gear. The version we can play now is the director's cut, which added even more content on top of the original. It's an absolute beast of a game, and one hell of a ride. So at number 6 is Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth. So this game brings together the series' two legendary protagonists. You have Ichiban Kasuga, the lovable, goofy hero of the new era. He finds out his mother, who he thought was long dead, is actually alive and living in Hawaii. So he immediately flies out to Honolulu to find her. At the same time, you have the original Dragon of Dojima, Kazuma Kiryu. He's also in Hawaii for deeply personal and much heavier reasons, and he inevitably gets tangled up in Ichiban's quest. This is the second game in the series to be a full-on turn-based JRPG, and they have absolutely perfected the system here. It's still turn-based, but it's way more dynamic. You can now move your character around within a set circle on their turn, which adds this huge new layer of strategy. You're lining up attacks to hit multiple guys, getting behind them for bonus damage, or just grabbing a nearby traffic cone to smash over someone's head. It's brilliant. The job system is back, and it's just as absurd and wonderful as ever. You're not a simple mage, you're a pyro dancer, an action star, a housekeeper who cleans up the battlefield with a vacuum. It's pure creative gold. And Kiryu? Kiryu, he has this special mode where he can just temporarily break the rules, go into a rage, and start fighting in real time just like the old games. It is the best of both worlds. The main story is already a massive 50-plus hour emotional epic. But then there's Dondoko Island. It is a full-blown, incredibly detailed Animal Crossing-style resort simulator inside the main game. That alone could be its own separate purchase. Then there's the Sujimon League, which is their parody of Pokemon, the Crazy Delivery minigame, which is basically Crazy Taxi. It is one of the most generous, content-stuffed games ever made.
Yup, at number 5 is Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So, the world of Alrest is
It's dying. People live on the backs of these colossal continent-sized creatures called titans, but the titans are getting old and beginning to die off, sinking into a sea of clouds. You play as Rex, this young, super optimistic salvager who's just trying to make a living. One day, he takes on a high-paying job that leads him to find Pyra, a legendary, all-powerful living weapon known as an Aegis, who takes the form of a blade. Your quest is to take her to the mythical paradise of Elysium, which supposedly sits at the top of the giant world tree, in the hopes of finding a new home for all of humanity. As you fight, your special moves, your arts, charge up. But the real core of it is the relationship between drivers, like Rex, and their blades, like Pyra. You use your driver arts to build up energy for your blade's specials. This leads to this incredible rhythm of chaining blade combos where you and your party members link elemental specials together, which in turn sets you up for these massive cinematic chain attacks that do absurd amounts of damage. It sounds like a lot, and well, it is, but when it finally clicks, oh my god, it is one of the most rewarding combat systems out there. We do have to talk about the blade system though. Getting new blades, your party members, and weapons is tied to core crystals, which is, yeah, it's a gacha system, a lottery. You crack open a crystal and hope you get one of the super cool rare blades. And this was a pretty big point of criticism for some people, and that's totally fair. The main story is a massive, emotional, and very anime JRPG epic that will take you a good 70, 80 hours alone. But then every single one of those rare blades you can pull, they have their own unique multi-part side quests and affinity charts to fill out. Just collecting them all and completing their stories is a huge undertaking. And that's before we even mention the DLC, Torna, the Golden Country, which isn't just a small side story, it is a full-blown 30-hour prequel with a revamped combat system that many people consider to be even better than the main game's own. Number 4 is Bravely Default 2. This is a love letter to the most classic old-school Final Fantasy you can imagine. The 4 elemental crystals have been stolen, the world is falling into chaos, and it's up to you, a new group of 4 heroes of light, a sailor, a runaway princess, a scholar, and a mercenary, to get them back. It's a setup you've seen a dozen times, but the execution here is just chef's kiss. It's turn-based, but instead of just attacking, you can choose to default, which makes you defend for that turn. When you do that, you bank a turn, storing it as a Brave point, or BP. Then, you can use the Brave command to spend those banked points and take multiple actions in a single turn. Of course, you can even go into a BP debt, taking up to 4 actions at once right at the start of a fight. But the catch is, you'll then be completely helpless and unable to move for the next few turns. And that system is layered on top of a phenomenal job system. When you beat a boss, you get their asterisk, which unlocks their job class, and there are a ton of them. You've got your basics like Black Mage and Monk, but then you get wild stuff like the Beastmaster or the Gambler. You equipped a main job and a sub-job, but you can also equip passive abilities you've learned from any job you've leveled up. This leads to some disgustingly broken character builds. It's the kind of system that just begs you to experiment. Now, even though it has a 2 in the title, this is a completely standalone story. New world, new characters. You can absolutely jump in here, no prior knowledge needed. And that's a good thing, because this game will consume you. The main story is long, but the real-time sync, maxing out every single job on every single character. That is a grind, but it's the best kind of grind. You're constantly unlocking new game-changing abilities, finding all the secret optional jobs, tackling the late-game super bosses that demand you have a perfectly optimized party. It's so good. You will easily spend over 100 hours just tinkering in the menus, trying to create the most powerful party imaginable. Coming in hot at number 3 is Code Vein.
All right, so imagine Dark Souls, but it's the most over-the-top dramatic anime you've ever seen. That's Code Vein. The world's ended, society has collapsed, and you wake up with no memory, of course, as a revenant. You're basically an anime vampire. You need blood to survive, and if you don't get it, you go insane and turn into a mindless monster called the Lost. So your goal is to, well, survive. Explore this ruined world and try to piece together your past. Now, make no mistake, this is a Souls-like, through and through. The combat is deliberate, it's weighty, you've got your stamina bar, your light and heavy attacks, your parries, your dodges, and brutally difficult bosses that will absolutely hand you your own butt. When you die, you drop all your haze, which is your experience and currency, and you have to get back to your bloodstain to retrieve it. So yeah, the core is very familiar, but, and this is a huge but, this game has two things that make it completely unique. First, you're not alone. You almost always have an AI partner with you, and they are incredibly helpful. They'll fight alongside you, they'll buff you, and they can even revive you if you go down. It takes that crushing, oppressive loneliness of a typical Souls game and just removes it. It makes the whole experience way more accessible. And second, the real magic here is the blood code system. This is your class, but you're not locked into a build. At any checkpoint, you can switch your blood code, which completely changes your stats and abilities. You can go from being a giant sword-wielding tank to a nimble spellcaster to a bayonet-wielding rifleman in seconds. It's like having your entire character build on a hot swap. The character creator alone is so detailed, you could lose an entire day in it. You're not just grinding levels, you're grinding to master every single blood code, to unlock every special move or gift, so you can mix and match them. Trying to find the perfect combination of blood code, weapon, and gifts to create the most insanely overpowered build is the real game. It's an endless rabbit hole of experimentation, and it is dangerously, dangerously addictive.
At number 2 is Genshin Impact.
I probably should have said this at the very, very beginning. My bad. But this list is in no specific order at all. So this isn't my second best JRPG ever. It's just the one we're talking about right now. Just wanted to clear that up. Anyway, you play as the Traveler, one of a pair of twins who can journey between worlds. You get stopped by this mysterious, powerful god, and you end up getting separated from your sibling and stranded in the world of Teyvat. Your goal is simple. Travel across the 7 nations of this world, find your twin, and figure out what the heck is going on. This game is not perfect, but the core gameplay loop, it is kinda solid. The exploration is heavily inspired by Breath of the Wild. You can climb pretty much anything, you have a glider, the world is massive, beautiful, and just packed with secrets to find. The combat is this really slick, action-based system where you have a party of 4 characters you can swap between instantly. And it's all built around these elemental reactions. You douse an enemy in water with one character, then instantly swap to an electro character to zap them for massive damage. It's fast, it's flashy, and it's super satisfying when you get a good combo going. Of course, this is a free-to-play gacha game. That means the game itself is free, but getting the cool new characters and the best weapons, that involves a lottery system. You use in-game currency to wish for them, and you can either grind for that currency very slowly, or, open your wallet. And for a lot of people, that's a huge turnoff, and I totally get it. It honestly fits the 100 plus hours criteria like nothing else. In Genshin, a 100 plus hours is just the tutorial. The game is constantly being updated with huge new regions to explore, new chapters of the main story, new characters, limited time events. It is a content machine. It's a game you can easily play for thousands of hours and still have stuff to do. It's not perfect by any means, but if you're looking for a JRPG that you can basically make your part-time job, this is it.
finally, at number 1, we have Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana. So you're Adol Christ in the series' legendary red-headed adventurer. You're just a passenger on this ship, the Lombardia, sailing to its next destination when this colossal kraken-like sea monster just annihilates the ship. You wash up completely alone on the shore of a place called the Isle of Siren, an island that's been feared for centuries, a place that ships mysteriously vanish near. Your goal is pretty straightforward: survive, find the other castaways, and figure out a way to get off this cursed rock. This is peak action JRPG combat. It is lightning fast, incredibly fluid, and just feels amazing to control. You have a party of 3, and you can swap between them instantly with the press of a button, and the game encourages this constantly with a simple but brilliant system. You have slash, strike, and pierce attacks. Flying enemies are weak to pierce, hard-shelled enemies are weak to strike, and soft-bodied enemies are weak to slash. So combat becomes this beautiful, high-speed dance of swapping characters on the fly to exploit weaknesses, dodging at the last second to get a moment of slow-mo, and unleashing these spectacular special moves. It never, ever gets old. You're not just finding treasure chests, you're actively exploring and mapping this massive, dangerous island. And every time you rescue another survivor from the shipwreck, they make it back to your makeshift home base, Castaway Village. And that's where the genius comes in. One person you rescue is a blacksmith, so now you can craft better weapons. Another is a doctor, so now you can make better potions. The village literally grows and evolves as you explore, and it creates this incredibly compelling and rewarding cycle. You explore to find survivors, which improves your village, which lets you craft better gear, which lets you explore further into more dangerous areas. And that's not even mentioning the other half of the game. Adol starts having these vivid dreams about a mysterious blue-haired girl named Dana who lived in an advanced civilization on the island thousands of years in the past, and you actually get to play as her in these sections. Her story is central to the entire mystery of the island, and how it all connects back to Adol in the present is just, it's masterclass storytelling. Ys has been around for a long time, but for a lot of people, myself included, Ys 8 was the one that knocked it out of the park and really put the series on the map for a whole new generation. To map out 100% of the island, complete every side quest for the castaways, and beat the true final boss, you are looking at a very, very happy 100 hours.
And as a bonus entry, we've got Persona 5 Strikers.
So this is a direct canonical sequel to the original Persona 5. The Phantom Thieves are all back together for summer vacation, and they're planning this awesome cross-country road trip across Japan. But because they can't ever catch a break, they get pulled into this whole new metaverse-related conspiracy involving these things called jails, which are kinda like the new palaces. This is not a turn-based JRPG, not even close. This is a full-on action game developed in partnership with Omega Force, the people who make the Dynasty Warriors games. And you can feel that DNA. You're fighting these massive hordes of shadows in real time, just carving through them. But, and this is what makes it so special, it is the most Persona action game you can possibly imagine. You can freeze time at any point to bring up your Persona skill list and cast spells, just like in the main game. It becomes this brilliant hybrid. You're still targeting enemy weaknesses to get extra hits, you're still setting up these huge, flashy, all-out attacks. It's not a mindless button masher. They somehow managed to translate the entire strategic feel of Persona 5's combat into a real-time system, and it works shockingly well. There's no deep social link system, it's replaced by a simpler bond system that you level up as you go. But it is a full-fledged sequel with a fantastic story that gives you a perfect excuse to hang out with these characters that we all grew to love for one more grand adventure. It's the perfect encore after you finish the main game. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and also turn on the notification. Lastly, don't forget to drink water and get some sun. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.